Hello, everyone. I'm Sam Eckmann of Gold Derby, and I'm here with Millie Bobby Brown of Stranger Things. And Millie, this season has quite a change of pace for Eleven. I would say we see her start out dealing with really everyday struggles, which is
Mm.
different for a person who formerly had superpowers. So, what is it like kind of exploring that side of her, that more human side of her?
Yeah, I mean, 11 this season deals with some of the realest monsters out there, like bullying and self-identity. These things I've personally been through and was struggling with during filming. So as a 17-year-old, you start to gain like more autonomy and you really try and stand on your own 2 feet. And I really felt like that was what 11's trying to do. And so I really had to channel that kind of inner growth
Mm.
while filming and really channel that inner human that we haven't yet explored with 11.
Yeah, it's a really you see her grow up quite a lot more than I think in past seasons even. I think my favorite episode or favorite moment rather of that beginning portion is when Eleven has that scene with Mike and she's really so upset that he hasn't
Mm,
ever been able to say I love you.
mm.
How did it's such an explosive scene. How did you approach that moment? What was that like for you?
It was a really big scene for me because this is maybe the most honest 11's been in the whole show. She really is explaining her true emotions and she's trying to have this boy understand her and he's not really quite grasping what she's trying to say. But because she's been so lonely in her life and because she's felt so kind of separate from the
Mm.
world, having this boy love her means a lot to her. I think she has a lot of abandonment issues and she's very scared of someone not being there for her. And if, in this case it's Papa, in this case it's Hopper, and in this case it's Mike. But like I feel it's very important for 11 to again stand on her own 2 feet. So this is kind of a good scene to kind of let 11 go, you know what, if he doesn't love me, he doesn't love me. I'm going to go on my journey, and if he supports me on that, he then he'll love me, then he truly loves me. But you get to really see that come together in volume 2.
Mm. Can't wait to see how it pans out there. I think
Yeah.
it's a great example of for all the young actors in this season. This season just feels more adult, a bit darker. It obviously has horror influence more, but everything feels higher stakes for the younger actor stories in this. What was your reaction when you read the scripts and realized it was taking that kind of shift?
Well, my gosh, I feel like it's so easy to categorize Stranger Things as like a sci-fi mystery show, and it does have so many elements of horror. But when I read season 4, I felt like it was so much more than that this season. It shows, you know, this show hides so many metaphorical things. Like, each character is of different ages, different races, different religions, different backgrounds. And what I think is most important about this show and this season specifically is that you will find yourself in all of the characters and all the stories. So when I read this season, I was like, wow, not only am I playing a character that's going through bullying and self-identity and separation from male influences in her life, but also you can go to another scene and find yourself in a very different situation and a very different character. So I really enjoyed this season and the kind of character arcs that everyone went on. But again, it all comes back together in the end,
Yeah.
like always, but I loved this season. I think it kind of gave me all the answers that I needed, and I think it gave the audience all the answers that they needed.
And I would imagine it must be a lot of fun because you get to sort of play a huge contrast between scenes where she's that are like action heavy and
Mhm.
psychically tossing people across the room, and then like a scene with Mike that's just really emotional. What is it like to have that much sort of span of emotions in one character?
Um, I was really nervous going into it because uh, I thought people were going to be so focused on the fact that she didn't have her powers, they weren't going to actually focus on my storyline. Um, because 11 is so heavily defined by her powers and what she can do and what she's capable of. But if people just see past that and see that actually what she's dealing with is actually far more powerful than powers, it's almost, I was worried at first. And the balance, I think this season is what I appreciate the most, because I had like half of it, I've got no powers and I'm like struggling, but she's on this mission to get them back. So hopefully people have been following it. And I think that I kind of came into it completely blindsided, because I was like, well, I'm going to have to develop her now. Like, she doesn't have these powers. Who is she? Is she aggressive? Does she have this tendency to actually want to hurt people without her powers physically? That kind of scared me as well. What kind of side does 11 have without her powers? And how angry will it get her?
Right. There's a lot of great backstory for her that you get to explore in this one, especially I think in the lab, your scenes, you and Matthew Modine have such a great chemistry together, I think, to watch on screen. What is it like working with him?
Well, Matthew was one of the first actors that I worked with on the show in season 1, and I was 10 when I started this show, and for some reason we just clicked. Our energies just worked, and like, he was always someone that checked in on me, made sure I was doing okay, and was a really big guidance for me in my whole life thus far. But also season 4, we worked together so closely on what this relationship looks like and how complicated and complex it actually is. He is just like, honestly, like, I mean, I say this, I actually, during filming, had a book. It was my daily gratitude book, and I wrote everything that I was grateful for and every day. And then I also had a book that would be like, whose life do you want to live like badly? Whose life are you jealous of? And I said Matthew Modine's. Like, I just like want to be like, he is just so inspirational in every aspect, his lifestyle choices and his career choices. I just really admire him, and he's been, again, a huge kind of torch bearer for me, and I've just kind of been trying to even follow in the large footsteps that he's made.
It's great to watch you two together, and a lot of those scenes too, I would imagine, have a big technical aspect to them, because there's a de-aged younger version of you in some of those scenes. So could you walk us through, what is the process like? What do you have to do differently when they need to digitally create this other version of you?
Well, Marty Blair, who played young 11, was so sweet and open to try anything. And unfortunately, we didn't have lots to explore, as I sowed the seed 7 years ago. But it was, the process really was for me to guide her through the whole process. I made sure, like, we had lunch and had discussions with our parents about the sensitivity of the scene she was going to be in and the character she was playing. But Marty was playing 11 in a really high intensity period of her life. And it was imperative that we brought that to life properly, because when Marty left set, I was finishing the story. I was carrying on the story. So it was almost like we were connected for months and months on end. And after we filmed those scenes, I then went to LA for a few days, and I worked in this thing called the Lola machine, and basically it deep fakes all of my face onto hers. So I basically relived all of the scenes that she was in, just with my face, not using any of my body. So it literally was like me going from left to right, up and down, but doing the facial expressions with it. So it was a really unique experience, and something that I've never experienced before, but also was so in awe of how brilliant these people are that they can actually do those things. So I was really pleased with the outcome. It was 2 processes that we went through, which I think was really different but exciting.
That sounds incredibly difficult to not use your body while you have to do all that.
Yeah,
How long did that take to get down?
it took a minute because I was trying to get used to it, because you have to throw in the energy that you had in months before with Marty, but now you're in a dark room in LA and you're trying to give it the same energy so that the audience truly believes that this is young 11. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned feeling connected to her, and with the element of connection in mind, it seems like this filming process would be very different because the story is split up in all these locations.
Mm.
So I would imagine that means you're not spending all this time on set with the usual cast, the usual gang all gathered together. So how did the dynamics change in that regard? It seems like a smaller pool of people on set.
No, it was. At first, we started with me in the lab. So I was alone for a while, for a few months. And then I had Matthew Modine join me, and then he left. And then I had Jamie Campbell Bower join me, and then he left. And then it was almost like, okay, Millie, you've done your lab stuff, which was months and months of work. Now you're going on to New Mexico for another few months to basically go to the beginning of the show, which was like a trip. I was like, okay, okay. So now I know where my character goes and is going to be. I have to completely rewind it. But it was nice to be able to get a fresh perception of 11 and a new environment, a new space. We're very close. We still had Finn and Noah and Charlie, so I had them to kind of bounce off of, and Eduardo was added to the group, which we were really lucky, and he kind of just gelled. So it was like family, and some of the crew got to come over, so it was still the same, but I also had 4 months with them before, so I was kind of we need our breaks.
Well, this series, I think, hits this unique spot of like being a huge zeitgeist moment. And this season, even more than the other ones, I think it just seems like the internet, went crazy the second this dropped and hasn't stopped talking about it. So what is that like to see such a like fervent fan reaction to it?
I mean, like I said, like our show is categorized as sci-fi and mystery, and that comes with some really passionate fans and really intelligent fans too. Some of their theories are insane, but when we started this show, none of us knew the success that it would be. I was only 10, so I had no clue, but it's almost like, when you're a baby and you're like, I really didn't have it. I didn't even I knew what I was doing, and I remember it, but like, I don't remember it. It is a blur to me. Somebody was like, can you recall a memory? I'd be like, I could recall a few, but not much, because it is a long time ago to me. And it's also, I think it was also like very like adrenaline, like I had so much adrenaline, and like, but it was such an amazing time. I guess we were all shocked when the show received so much praise, but this season it's like I was kind of worried because we had taken 3 years to actually put this together. So I was like, are people even going to remember? Like, I really just was like, are people going to? And then, but then it just all unraveled, and it's all anyone talks about. I was on a plane the other day, and this guy was watching it in front of me. He had no clue I was sat behind him. And I was just like, you're on episode 4, dude. Like, this is it, get ready. I so badly wanted to tap on his, I'd be like, hi, but no, I didn't want to ruin it for him, it was really cool. I just love the show, and I love the recognition it gets. I think it's really nice.
Yeah. Well, I think that 3-year gap when you watch this season, it really highlights how much you all have grown between even just one season to the next. And you mentioned you started at 10. If you think back to kind of where you were then, looking at where you are now, with this experience of the show, how do you think you've grown the most as an actor?
Gosh, Well, I mean, when I started the show, yeah, I was 10, and I, again, don't really recall very much, but all I remember is Hello by Adele came out when we were filming. That's all I remember. I remember I used it for a crying scene. That's it. I've grown a lot. And I think shockingly, as a young person growing up in the 21st century, lots of things change within a space of a year. You know, one second I'm in 10th grade doing trigonometry, and then I'm fighting Vecna, and then there's COVID, and the next thing you know, I'm in Beijing promoting a film. Like all of that during that time, I'm blonde, brunette, having an entirely new set of friends. Like filming the show at the time we did couldn't have been more perfect for me, and the place I was in my life, and the place I was in mentally in my life. I think it was perfect that we filmed it right after COVID, and you know, I was just a very different person, very. So yeah, it's nice.
Well, we've loved seeing you know, you've grown on camera, and we've loved seeing how 11 has grown alongside with you. So thank you, Millie, so much. We can't wait to see the final 2 episodes when those finally drop.
You're gonna love them.
I can't wait. So if you're watching out there, subscribe to Gold Derby, stay with us this season. And Millie, thank you again.
Thank you so much. Bye.